But of course, as you know, 6 years ago, Congress shut down his carbon tax initiative and greenhouse cap, but still, not by stealth, but openly, via executive fiat, he commenced to shut down over 1,000 power plants, doubling overall electrical prices, crippling our economy.
This is, I think, a huge problem, both in Britain, where they're planning to phase out all coal-fired power altogether, even though it's the cheapest, most reliable, and these days the cleanest form of generating electricity, does less harm to the environment than anything else, bar none, but they're going to close that down. This has now become a kind of religion for those who don't have religion. Jay Lear of the Heartland Institute sent round a very interesting email to me just a few days ago. He said that he notices that the reason why most of the audiences to which he speaks don't believe that there's a problem with the climate is that they've all got a religion of their own already and they don't need this new one.
That's right.
And it has become a religion, or really, let us be very clear about this. There's a distinction between a religion, which may or may not be true, and we can't prove it either way, and a superstition, which can be, and in the case of global warming has been, proven to be false. After all, there's been no global warming now for 18 years, 9 months. The rate of warming on all 5 of the major data sets since 1990 is well below the lowest.
Well, sure, we know that, sir, and you've documented it, and it's on record, and they got caught hiding the decline, devastating victories 5 years ago. People understand that, and I mean, you talk about a religion. It's a religion where they're the high priest. We pay them indulgences. We've now got the Pope trying to get in on it. By the way, how is that going? I know you're a Catholic. I have a lot of great Catholic friends, great people. I know there's been a big backlash against the Pope and his behavior. What do you make of his offensive to try to get everybody to sign on to the Paris deal? Looks like that didn't go too well.
I think that, no, it didn't. I mean, the Paris deal actually is a bit of a failure. First of all, it isn't legally binding. There are those who try to say, including the Obama administration, that because the treaty imposes obligations, it isn't really a treaty because it isn't legally binding. Well, it isn't legally binding. And the reason why is that I, among others, argued for many years that there should be what's called a cessation clause. Now, this wasn't in the original draft of the treaty, but it was put in the second draft, and we've managed to keep it in all subsequent drafts. And it reads much the same as the similar clause in the Kyoto Protocol of 1997, which Canada and various other countries have already taken advantage of to leave this process. And now that cessation clause has been put into this treaty too. And what that means is that any nation that finally wakes up, comes off the Kool-Aid and realizes that global warming is not happening and isn't going to happen at anything like the originally predicted rate, they can now walk away without any penalty. And all they have to do to achieve that is to give a single year's notice. So it's really quite a feeble document. And indeed, they haven't even been able to narrow down what the target amount of.
So they are being forced then to go into a stealth mode, is what you're saying?
What they're doing is they have now, this was the high point. This is the high tide mark on the scum-filled bath of water, if you like. This is the highest that the global warming extremists are going to achieve. From here on in, the water is running out of the bath. All it'll leave is a little bit of scum behind. And that's
so this is a death rattle, a dead cat bounce, as they bounce down the ravine towards their final end.
That's right. It's still costing now, I think the latest estimate is $1.5 trillion a year worldwide in people having to pay extra for their electricity and their gasoline purely because of this global warming nonsense. After all, the prices, raw material prices of coal, oil and gas have all fallen in recent years and have fallen very rapidly in the last year or so. And yet electricity prices are double or triple what they were 10 years ago.
And Spain's been totally bankrupted. I mean, as they admit it, and of course you warned their own government. Just to go back to something you said earlier, though, because that's not just a claim. They admit that modern UK, US, Japanese coal plants, nothing comes out, nothing but water vapor and carbon dioxide. And then they tell us they're horrible and dirty when it is the cleanest energy there is.
That is exactly right. You see, what happens now is that inside these coal-fired plants, they have two principal methods of technology. One of them was invented by a friend of mine at Cambridge, who was an engineer there in the science department, and he invented a thing called fluidized bed combustion. And this is a very efficient way of taking either pulverized or pelletized coal, and you make it into a kind of fluid, and it burns very, very efficiently. And the boilers are now so efficient that they're literally 99.5% efficient. The odd 0.5% is just a little bit of conduction of heat through the walls of the boiler. Otherwise, it's completely efficient. It's the most efficient way of generating.
And of course, it got developed in England because that's where coal got discovered and used, there and in Germany. What a crime to have England, that literally invented the modern world's coal systems, being shut down where you won't have any of it. But India and China and Mexico can have the most old, fuming, stinking plants and build new ones. It is a crime against our nations. I want to ask you why they want to shut down the West. On the other side, Lord Christopher Monkton, scienceandpublicpolicy.org is the key website. Stay with us.